The first thing I noticed when I walked into the executive floor was the unfamiliar smell of fresh paint. My office had always smelled like coffee, leather, and the faint metallic scent of computers running late into the night. That morning, it smelled different, cleaner, colder, as if someone had erased me from the room before I even arrived. I stopped outside my office. The glass door that had carried my name for nearly 6 years was gone. In its place was a new black plaque. Derek Cole, Chief Innovation Officer. I stared at it. For a few seconds, I honestly thought I was on the wrong floor. Then I noticed my old desk through the glass. My chair, my bookshelf, even the framed photograph of my father that had sat beside my monitor. Everything was still there. Everything except me. A young man stood inside my office, wearing an expensive charcoal suit. Derek Cole, my wife's newest favorite. He was 29, ambitious, handsome in the carefully groomed way executives liked, and had joined our company only 4 months earlier. He looked up and smiled. "Oh, you're here." I stared at him. Apparently, he walked toward the door. "Victoria asked me to move in last night." Victoria, my wife, CEO of Tech, the technology company we had built together from almost nothing. 6 years ago, she had been working from a tiny rented office with 3 employees. I had written the first architecture for the company's software platform. I had recruited the original engineering team. I had personally negotiated our first major contract. Victoria had become the public face of the company. I had become the person who made everything work. Neither role mattered anymore, apparently. Derek stepped aside. She said this office made more sense for my position. I looked at my desk. Where are my things? Storage. That single word hit harder than it should have. My father's photograph. My notebooks. The old keyboard I had used when Tech had barely been able to pay salaries. All of it had been moved to storage. Without telling me. Without asking me. Without even a conversation. I turned away. "Where's Victoria?" Derek smiled. "Boardroom." I walked down the corridor. When I opened the boardroom door, Victoria was standing beside the giant digital screen. She was wearing the navy suit I had bought her before our first investor meeting. She looked powerful, untouchable, and completely unfamiliar. She glanced at me. "You're late." I almost laughed. "You moved my office." Her expression didn't change. I reassigned it. To Derek. "Yes. You could have told me." Victoria sighed. "This is exactly why I didn't." "What does that mean?" "It means I knew you'd make it emotional." I stared at her. "Emotional? This is a company, Michael, not our living room." That sentence stayed with me. Because she was right. It wasn't our living room. It was something we had built together. But apparently only one of us still remembered that. Victoria continued. "Derek is leading the new AI division. He needs the executive office. I built that division years ago. And things change." I looked at her. "Do they?" She crossed her arms. "Michael, you're still valuable. But you're not the person you used to be." I felt something inside me go completely quiet. There are moments when anger burns hot, and then there are moments when anger disappears. Not because you're calm, because you're done. I nodded slowly. "Understood." Victoria seemed surprised. "That's it." I smiled faintly. What else should I say? I walked out. Behind me, I heard Derek laugh. I didn't turn around. I went downstairs. Not to leave. Not yet. I went to the engineering floor. The moment I entered, conversation stopped. Everyone knew. Of course they knew. Sarah Chun, our lead systems architect, walked toward me. "Michael." I raised a hand. "It's fine." "No, it isn't." She looked furious. "She gave Derek your office?" "Apparently." Sarah shook her head. "He's already trying to rewrite the entire architecture." I looked toward the engineering desks. 23 people. The same people I had recruited over the years. The same people who had stayed through failed launches, sleepless nights, and impossible deadlines. They were watching me, waiting. I smiled. "Keep doing your jobs." Sarah frowned. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the glass walls, overlooking the city. "For now." I paused. "I'm going home." None of us knew that by the next morning, every single one of those 23 engineers would make the same decision. And Victoria would finally discover the difference between losing an employee and losing the people who made the company possible. That night, Victoria came home at 9:47. I was sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of water. She dropped her handbag on the counter. "You didn't answer my messages." "I was driving." "You were driving for 3 hours?" "No." She looked at me. "Then where were you?" "Thinking." She sighed. "About the office?" "About us." She froze. For the first time that day, I saw uncertainty in her eyes. She sat across from me. "Michael, I want to ask you something." "Okay. Do you trust Derek more than me?" She didn't answer immediately. That was enough. I nodded. "That's what I thought. It's not about trust." "Then what is it?" "Derek has vision." I almost smiled. "I designed the system your company runs on." Past tense. "Exactly." She looked irritated. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Turn every disagreement into a referendum on our marriage." I stared at her. "You moved another man into my office." "Your office?" She leaned forward. "It's the company's office." I nodded. "You're right." She seemed surprised. Then I asked, "Do you remember the night we started Vailtech?" Her expression softened. "Of course. We had $4,000. We had less than that. You had 2,000. You had 3. You sold your car. You sold your motorcycle." We both smiled for a second. Then the smile disappeared. "That's not the same company anymore," she whispered. "No." I looked at her. "It isn't." She stood. "I need sleep." "Victoria." She stopped. "If you ever need me to leave Vailtech, just say it." She turned around. "I don't want you to leave." "Then what do you want?" She hesitated. "I want you to find your place." I looked down. "My place?" "Yes." I nodded. "I'll find it." She went upstairs. I stayed downstairs. At midnight, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. "We need to talk." I called her. She answered immediately. "Michael, Derek just held a meeting." "What happened?" "He told us he's restructuring engineering." "How?" "He's eliminating your architecture team." I sat upright. "All of them?" "He's replacing senior engineers with contractors." My jaw tightened. "Does Victoria know?" "I don't think so." "Don't fight him." "What?" "Don't fight him yet." "Michael, this is our entire infrastructure." "I know." "Then what are you doing?" I looked toward the dark staircase. "I'm finding my place." The next morning, I arrived at Vailtech at 6:30. My access card still worked. Barely. When I reached the engineering floor, I found Sarah waiting. She handed me a folder. "What's this?" "Resignation letters." I stared at her. "Whose?" She didn't answer. I opened the folder. The first letter was hers. Then Daniel's. Then Priya's. Then Hassan's. 23 letters. 23 signatures. I looked up. Sarah's voice was quiet. "We haven't submitted them." "Why not?" "Because we wanted to ask you first." I closed the folder. "You shouldn't resign because of me." "We're not." Sarah looked directly into my eyes. "We're resigning because the company stopped respecting the people who built it." I felt my throat tighten. "Give her one chance." "Michael." "One." Sarah nodded reluctantly. "Okay." I walked toward the window. Across the city, the sun was rising. I didn't know it then, but that folder was about to become the most expensive piece of paper in Victoria's career. Derek moved fast. Within 48 hours, he had changed 3 department heads. By Friday, he had canceled the weekly engineering review. By Monday, he had announced a new development strategy. Nobody understood it, because there was nothing to understand. It was buzzwords: AI, cloud optimization, blockchain infrastructure, predictive automation. Everything sounded impressive. Nothing was connected. Sarah sent me screenshots. I didn't reply. I had decided to stay out, at least publicly. Then Victoria called. "Can you come to my office?" I almost corrected her. "My office." But I didn't. When I entered, Derek was sitting beside her. He smiled. "Michael." "Victoria." She gestured toward a chair. "Sit." I did. Derek opened a presentation. "We've identified significant inefficiencies in the old architecture." "Old architecture?" He smiled. The system you've been maintaining. I looked at Victoria. She remained silent. Derek continued. We're moving toward a completely new platform. How long? 4 months. Budget? 20 million. I laughed. Victoria frowned. What's funny? You don't have a migration plan. Derek's smile disappeared. You haven't seen the full proposal. I don't need to. I pointed at the screen. Your database dependencies aren't mapped. He said nothing. Your API contracts aren't documented. Silence. You don't have a rollback strategy. Victoria looked at Derek. He shifted in his chair. I stood. Don't do this. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Do what? Let him destroy 6 years of infrastructure because he gave you a pretty presentation. Derek stood. That's enough. I looked at him. You've been here 4 months. 4 months is enough to identify incompetence. I smiled. Then you should have identified yourself. Victoria slammed her hand against the desk. Enough. Silence. She looked at me. Michael, leave. I nodded. Okay. I walked out. As I reached the elevator, Sarah called. Did she listen? No. Sarah exhaled. Then we're done. Not yet. Michael, wait. For what? I looked at the elevator doors. For morning. The next day, Derek pushed his migration plan live. Within 3 hours, the first system failed. Then another. Then the customer dashboard disappeared. By noon, the company had lost access to its internal deployment system. Phones started ringing. The emergency engineering channel exploded. Derek panicked. Victoria ran into the engineering floor. What happened? Nobody answered. Sarah stood beside the server console. Victoria looked at her. Fix it. Sarah shook her head. I can't. What do you mean you can't? Derek disabled the recovery protocol. Victoria's face went pale. Where's Michael? Nobody answered. Because I wasn't there. For the first time since Tech existed, Victoria had a crisis without me. And she finally realized something. I wasn't the person who needed Tech. Tech was the company that needed people like me. By 7 o'clock the next morning, the company was in chaos. Clients couldn't access their dashboards. Developers couldn't deploy updates. The internal communication system was partially offline. And the backup system Derek had disabled couldn't be restored. Victoria called me 12 times. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I knew answering too quickly would make her believe nothing had changed. At 8:15, Sarah came to my apartment. She was holding the same folder. Only now it was thicker. We're submitting them. I looked at her. Everyone. I sighed. Sarah, if you leave, people could lose their jobs. She smiled sadly. Michael, we're already losing our jobs. She handed me the folder. I didn't open it. Have you spoken to Victoria? No. Good. She looked confused. Why? Because she needs to understand what happened without me explaining it. At 9 o'clock, the entire engineering department walked into Victoria's office. 23 people. Senior architects, back-end engineers, security specialists, DevOps engineers, database administrators. Every person who understood the company's technology from the inside. Victoria looked at them. What is this? Sarah stepped forward. Our resignations. Victoria stared at the papers. You're all resigning? Yes. Because of Derek? Sarah shook her head. Because of leadership. Victoria's face hardened. You don't get to abandon the company during a crisis. Daniel spoke. We've been trying to prevent this crisis. Another engineer added. We warned management. A third said, you didn't listen? Victoria looked toward Derek. He was standing near the window. You said everything was under control. Derek swallowed. It is. Sarah laughed. The production servers are down. I'll fix it. You don't know how. Derek's face turned red. Victoria slammed the resignation letters onto the desk. Nobody leaves. Sarah calmly replied. We already decided. One by one, employees placed their access cards on the desk. 23 cards. 23 people. 23 years of combined knowledge represented in a pile of plastic. Then Sarah looked at Victoria. Michael didn't ask us to leave. Victoria froze. What? He actually told us to stay. The room became silent. Sarah continued. He told us to give you one chance. Victoria looked toward the door. For the first time, Something like regret appeared on her face. Where is he? Sarah smiled faintly. Exactly where you put him. Then everyone walked out. Victoria remained standing. Alone. Derek approached her. We can hire replacements. She slowly turned. Can you? Yes. How long? He hesitated. A few weeks. Victoria laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the sound of someone realizing she had been lied to. Do you know how long it took me to build that team? Derek said nothing. 6 years. She looked at the resignation letters. And you destroyed it in 2 days. That afternoon, Victoria came to my apartment. She stood outside my door for almost 30 seconds before knocking. When I opened it, she looked exhausted. Her expensive suit was wrinkled. Her hair was messy. I had never seen her look like that. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She sat on the couch. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, Why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? That everyone would leave? I sat across from her. I did. No. You warned me about Derek. I warned you about the architecture. She looked down. What's the difference? The difference is that you trusted his confidence more than my experience. She closed her eyes. I made a mistake. Yes. She looked at me. I need you back. I shook my head. You don't. I do. No. She looked confused. You don't need me. I pointed toward her phone. You need the team. They resigned. They're not gone forever. What does that mean? It means you can still fix this. She stared at me. How? Fire Derek. Her expression changed. He has investors supporting him. Then tell them the truth. Michael. Victoria. You know what happens next. She said nothing. Your clients will leave. Silence. Your stock will fall. Silence. Your investors will panic. Her eyes filled with tears. And then I looked at her. You'll finally have to choose. Choose what? Your pride. I paused. Or the company. She whispered. I choose the company. Then prove it. The next morning, Victoria called an emergency board meeting. She removed Derek from his position. The board demanded answers. She gave them everything: the failed migration, the missing recovery protocol, the engineering resignations, and finally, the truth about me. She told them I had designed the original platform. She told them I had recruited the engineering team. She told them I had personally saved the company 3 times before. Then one board member asked, Why did you remove him? Victoria looked down. Because I stopped seeing him as my partner. The room became silent. She continued, I saw him as someone standing in my way. The board chair asked, And now? Victoria swallowed. Now I understand he was holding the bridge together. That afternoon, every major business publication began reporting on Vale Tech's internal crisis. But something unexpected happened. Instead of collapsing completely, the company received hundreds of messages from employees, customers, and former engineers. They weren't defending Victoria. They were defending the company, because the company still had something powerful. Its reputation had been built by people, not by Derek, not by Victoria, not even by me, by everyone. And now Victoria had one final chance. She called me. I fired him. I know. Will you come back? I looked out the window. Not yet. Why? Because if I come back, things have to change. Everything. I smiled faintly. Then start changing them. 3 days passed. Vale Tech survived. Barely. The board froze Derek's projects. The failed migration was reversed. Temporary engineers were hired. But nobody could replace the original team overnight. Victoria discovered that leadership wasn't about making people obey. It was about making people believe. And she had destroyed that belief. Meanwhile, I stayed away. I rented a small office downtown. Nothing fancy. Just a desk, a laptop, a whiteboard, and silence. Then Sarah called. We're meeting. Where? Your office. 23 people arrived that evening. I looked around. Everyone was there. Why? Sarah smiled. We want to talk about the future. I laughed. Whose future? Ours. Daniel put a folder on my desk. Inside was a proposal. A new technology company. Independent. Employee-owned. Built around the architecture we had created. I looked at the name. North Star Systems. You've already registered it? Sarah nodded. I stared at the document. How much funding? Enough for 6 months. Clients? 2 former Veil Tech clients contacted us. I looked at everyone. You want me to lead? Sarah smiled. We want you to build. I sat back. For years, I had been fighting to be recognized inside someone else's company. Maybe I had been asking the wrong question. Maybe I didn't need recognition. Maybe I needed freedom. I signed. North Star Systems was born that night. Within 2 weeks, our first client signed. Within 4 weeks, we had 7. Within 2 months, we had 18. The technology was better because we weren't rushing. The team was happier because everyone had a voice. And I discovered something strange. I was sleeping again. I was laughing again. I was becoming myself again. Then Victoria showed up. She stood outside my office. I invited her in. She looked around. This is yours. Ours. She smiled. North Star. Yes. She sat down. I heard you have 18 clients. 20. She raised an eyebrow. 20. 2 signed this morning. She laughed. Congratulations. Thank you. There was a long silence. Finally, she said, I want to make an offer. I leaned back. Go ahead. Veil Tech wants to acquire North Star. I smiled. No. She nodded. I expected that. Then why ask? Because I needed to hear you say no. I looked at her. Why? Because I finally understand. She stood. What? You never wanted to own me. She paused. You wanted me to respect you. I didn't answer. Because she was right. 3 months later, North Star was no longer a startup. We had become a serious competitor. Our technology was faster. Our security was stronger. And our clients trusted us. That was when Veil Tech changed strategy. They launched an aggressive campaign against us. They claimed North Star had copied proprietary technology. It was a lie. But lies don't need to be true to be dangerous. Investors panicked. 2 clients suspended contracts. The board demanded action. Sarah walked into my office. They're attacking us. I know. What do we do? I looked at the legal documents. We prove everything. But the court process could take months. We don't need months. I stood. We need 1 day. The next morning, we released the complete development history of our technology. Every timestamp, every architecture document, every original repository record, every patent filing, every employee contribution, everything. And then we released something else. A complete audit showing that the architecture Veil Tech claimed we had stolen had actually been developed by our team years earlier. The internet exploded. Industry experts examined the evidence. The accusation collapsed. Veil Tech's legal department withdrew the complaint. But the damage was done. Investors began questioning Victoria. The board called another meeting. This time, Victoria didn't fight. She walked into the room and placed a document on the table. I'm stepping down as CEO. The board members stared at her. You can't be serious. I am. Why? Victoria looked at the window. Because I spent years building this company. She paused. And then I almost destroyed it because I forgot what building meant. Meanwhile, North Star continued growing. But I never celebrated Veil Tech's downfall. Because part of me still cared. Not about the company. About Victoria. About the woman I had once loved. About the person she had been before ambition changed her. That evening, she called me. Can we meet? I agreed. We met at the restaurant where we had celebrated our first $1 million contract. She looked different. No CEO entourage. No assistants. No security. Just Victoria. She smiled. I resigned. I heard. I thought you'd be happy. I'm not. She looked surprised. Why? Because I never wanted you destroyed. She looked down. I destroyed myself. I reached across the table. Maybe. She looked at my hand. But you can rebuild. She smiled sadly. Like you did. Exactly. A year passed. North Star became one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. I became CEO. But I never forgot the day my office disappeared. Victoria started a non-profit organization that helped young entrepreneurs build technology companies. She didn't return to corporate leadership. She didn't need to. She had finally learned that success wasn't measured by how many people stood beneath you. It was measured by how many people were willing to stand beside you. One evening, I received a message. "Victoria, can we talk?" I replied, "Yes." We met at the old Vale Tech building. The company still existed, but it was smaller, quieter. The executive floor had changed. My old office was empty. Victoria opened the door. Inside, my old desk was still there. My father's photograph sat on the shelf. I stared at it. "You kept it?" Victoria nodded. "I found it in storage." I picked up the photograph. "Why?" She looked at me. "Because I couldn't throw away the part of my life that mattered." I looked around. "Why did you bring me here?" She took a breath. "To apologize." I smiled. "You already did." "No." She shook her head. "I apologize for the consequences." She stepped closer. "I never apologized for what I did to you." I remained silent. She continued. "I made you feel like you were replaceable." Her voice broke. "You weren't." I looked down. "You were my partner." She wiped a tear from her cheek. "And I treated you like an employee." For the first time, I let myself feel the pain. "I loved you." "I know." "I loved you even when I was angry." "I know." "But I can't go back." She nodded. "I don't want you to." I looked at her. She smiled. "I want you to go forward." That sentence surprised me. Maybe that was the closure I had needed. Not revenge. Not punishment. Not watching her suffer. Just understanding. We stood there quietly. Then she laughed. "You know what the strangest part is?" "What?" "You gave me everything." She smiled through tears. "And I thought I needed someone new." I laughed softly. "Derek." She rolled her eyes. "Please don't remind me." We both laughed. For the first time in years, it didn't hurt. 2 years after the day Victoria gave my office away, North Star opened its new headquarters. It was enormous. Glass walls. 3 floors. Hundreds of employees. Our own research laboratory. And at the center of the executive floor was an office. My office. But this time, the door didn't carry my name. It carried something else. Innovation room. Anyone could use it. Engineers. Interns. Designers. Developers. Anyone with an idea. Because I had learned something. An office isn't power. People are. A title isn't respect. Trust is. And ownership isn't control. It's responsibility. On opening day, Sarah stood beside me. "You realize you could have put your name on that door." I smiled. "I don't need it." She laughed. "Old Michael would never say that." Old Michael was stupid. We laughed. Then my phone vibrated. A message from Victoria. "Congratulations. You built something better." I replied. "We built something better." She responded. "I'm proud of you." I looked at the message for a long time. Then I put my phone away. The past didn't disappear. It simply stopped controlling me. That evening, I stood on the rooftop overlooking the city. Sarah joined me. "You ever think about what would have happened if Victoria hadn't taken your office?" I smiled. "All the time." "What do you think?" I looked at the lights below. "I think I'd still be sitting behind that desk. And I might never have realized I was capable of building something bigger." Sarah nodded. "Funny how life works." "Yeah." She looked toward the skyline. "Do you regret it?" I thought about Victoria. The betrayal. The humiliation. The resignation letters. The crisis. North Star. The new life. "No." Sarah smiled. "Not even a little?" I shook my head. She took my office. I looked at the headquarters behind us and accidentally gave me my freedom. Years later, people would tell the story differently. Some would say Victoria's husband destroyed her company. Some would say her employees betrayed her. Some would say North Star was born from revenge. But none of them understood the truth. I didn't win because Victoria lost. I won because I stopped measuring my worth by what she gave me. That morning, she took my office. The next morning, her entire tech team resigned. But the real story wasn't about an office. It was about a man who finally understood that respect cannot be demanded. It has to be earned. And sometimes, the moment someone takes everything away from you is the exact moment you discover you never needed it.